Can we start?
Yes.
All right, good afternoon. Members of the Executive Nominations Committee, pleased to be here to begin our hearings for March 10th on the governor's appointees. We have a full agenda for today, so we're going to go ahead and jump right in. We'll start with nominee number 1, and this is Ms. Tabitha Robinson for the Maryland Cannabis Administration Director. She is in transit to reside in Maryland, and so I will go ahead and introduce her. I'm not technically a constituent of anyone right now. My pleasure to introduce Ms. Tabitha Robinson for nomination of the Director of the Maryland Cannabis Administration. Ms. Robinson is an attorney with significant legal experience in the business and working rights sector. Currently, she serves, or is departing her position as the Director of Economic Development for the New York Office of Cannabis Management. New York, like management, is relatively early in the process of supporting recreational cannabis use in its market, and Ms. Robinson's involved in issuing licenses in New York, which will be a great asset for our state as our market continues to grow. Additionally, I appreciate her willingness to meet with me prior to the hearing because I believe that the success of Maryland has so far that we've seen so far in regulating adult use was in large part because of the close collaboration that we've had between the General Assembly and the staff of the Maryland Cannabis Administration. With that, Ms. Robinson, you may go ahead.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon. I'd like to thank Senate President Bill Ferguson, Executive Nominations Chair Clarence Lamb, as well as Executive Nominations Vice Chair Anthony Muse. Thank you all for having me. I also want to thank my family who traveled very far, including my 3 grandmothers. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions from the committee. We'll start with Senator Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a chance to meet Ms. Robinson just last week, and as we've unrolled the adult use of cannabis here in the state of Maryland, it's been very, very challenging. But my conversation with her last week was very encouraging, and I think that we are the beneficiaries of a fantastic leader over in the Maryland Cannabis Administration. So just want to share that with the committee, and I second the nomination. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Hayes.
We'll go to Senator Hershey, followed by Senator McKay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Robinson, welcome. We didn't get a chance to meet, but I had seen a little bit of research and had been told about, I guess, a commissioned report in the state of New York that talked about its delayed rollout in the state. And I wondered if I know you didn't run the program in New York, but you were involved, if there was anything that you may have learned from that rollout and some of the difficulties it had that might help you here in the Maryland Cannabis Administration.
Thank you so much for the question, Senator Hershey. Most definitely, I would say there's a lot of lessons we can take from New York. If you look at all of the cannabis agencies across the country, we're all asking the same questions with different answers. One of the lessons I think we may take from New York is that of making sure we go slow. We want to make sure we're pacing ourselves, and in that time we are having conversations with stakeholders. We are pacing the market, collecting data, and issuing regulations that are responsive to the needs of the market. Another lesson that I would say from the state of New York is really thinking about how we operationalize licenses. In New York, we were able to operationalize over 800 licenses across the supply chain, including a very large legacy to legal transition as we worked with underground operators, bringing them online.
So I think Maryland's a few years ahead of New York and where
That's
they
correct.
were. So I don't know if taking it slow is going to be acceptable to a lot of the licensees that are waiting right now. I think there's been a number of concerns on how the equity license are being handled and how they are being dealt with, the somewhat vertical integration of what we have here. So was anything more specific to those types of equity licenses and what happened in New York?
Yes, and thank you for allowing me to clarify. When I say take it slow, I mean on the issuance of licenses. Maryland currently has around 190 conditional licenses that we are waiting to operationalize, which means they have the paper in hand, but they have not yet opened doors. So before Maryland is to issue any additional licenses, we want to make sure that we take that slow, that we operationalize what's already in the queue before we issue new licenses and flood the market. With regards to social equity, these 190 plus licenses in the state of Maryland are social equity only. It's the nation's first social equity only round, and operationalizing them will be a process of providing them with information and with resources so that they may open their doors. That remains a priority for the Maryland Cannabis Administration, and it's something we're hoping to do as soon as we can.
Okay, and thank you. Just final question. Do you think with these 190 licenses, is there an expectation on the timing on which they come out, or what are your thoughts with respect to that? I mean, since you've been doing this job for a somewhat period of time.
2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks. Not as long as I thought.
But the expectation that you ask of already exists in guidance and regulations. The social equity only licensees have 18 months to become operational. Some of them are approaching the 6-month mark right now. So we look forward to serving them over the remaining time.
Okay, thank you very much. And now I know why we didn't get a chance to meet, since you've
Thank
only
you.
been there 2.5 weeks. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator McKay, followed by Senator King.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Robinson, good to see you again. We had a very, very good interview. Thank you for coming and seeing me. One of the things that I talked about was making sure that Maryland being very diverse, different between rural and urbans and all that kind of stuff. And with your work in New York, you had shared to me how your approach was that. Could you share with the committee your approach, making sure that all parts of Maryland are included in your decision-making?
Sure. Thank you for the question, Senator McKay. New York State, like Maryland State, is a very diverse jurisdiction. There are many regions, and each region has different needs, different priorities, and different challenges. Part of my work with the Maryland Cannabis Administration, as it was in New York, will be to first meet with stakeholders across those regions, understanding the different needs, challenges, and priorities that they share and where they differ, and then devising policies that at a large level can address the needs across the broader population, but also policies and programs specifically that can address the individual needs of, let's say, the Chesapeake region as compared to the central region of Maryland.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator King, followed by Vice Chair Muse.
Thank you. When Ms. Robinson came to see me last week, she came in and I thought, wow, she's kind of young. I wonder if she's got experience. And then she started talking, and my caution is to don't underestimate this lady, because she knows her stuff and was very poised, and I have every confidence that she's going to do a great job.
Thank you, Senator King. If you think I look young, you should see my grandmother's.
Yes, I thought the same thing when I saw when we met. I said, tell me about yourself since you graduated from high school. But it was very pleased. I just want to make this comment. Thank you for the conversation. We talked about minority participation. We talked about the willingness to look in all facets of this industry that minorities cannot be excluded from. And then secondly, we talked about the former persons of nonviolent, maybe got caught up in the tough on crime sort of thing. And I think that they deserve a chance at this too. And so I thank you for your answers and for being open on that, and congratulations in advance. Wish you well.
Thank you, Vice Chair Muse.
Senator James.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's nice to see you again. I had a delightful conversation with you, and I don't know, because I came in about 5 minutes late, so I don't know if you spoke to this, but I asked you, a question about, when we met, about what you wanted to do that you thought would be beneficial that it wasn't currently being done, and I was fascinated by the answer. I thought it was so insightful. I thought it was the right thing to do, and I wonder if you just wanted to mention the information you would want to be gathering as you take on this role?
Thank you, Senator James, for the question. One of the things I'd like to do is gather data around ownership, and ownership in the broadest sense of that. Often when we think of an owner of a business, we think of the person's name on the paper, but when you actually look deep within a business, you see that there may be many more stakeholders involved, either as owners or as vendors or management servicers with significant agreements, or debtors and so forth and so on. One of the things that I hope to do here in Maryland is really help the state understand who runs this cannabis industry, right? What percentage, for example, of the stakeholders, of those who have a say within a license are owners? What percentage are vendors? What percentage are contractors, debtors, financial institutions, so on and so forth? The reason that this information is important is because it will help us as an agency, one, to better collaborate with our partners and other sister agencies, right? If we, for example, can understand what financing looks like in cannabis, then we can make better arrangements with the financial services agencies here within the state, right? And we can create more opportunities when we understand and have transparency into what the market looks like. We can start to widen the funnel and create more opportunities for economic development.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Robinson, I was going to invite you to the You Look Too Young caucus to help co-chair, if you'd like. No, in all seriousness, I just want to say thank you for putting your name in and for coming to Maryland. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation and was highly impressed by your skill and talent. Maryland's done a great job in our rollout, and I just am really excited about your leadership as we move to the next phase. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, President Ferguson. And I will say, I believe I'm inheriting something very good here in Maryland. So thank you for the opportunity.
Any further questions for Ms. Robinson? Seeing none, thank you so much. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much.
Next, we're going to go to the Accountability and Implementation Board, and we are going to start with someone who's not a stranger to this body, Dr. Britt Kerwin. He is a constituent of District 19, Senator Kramer, and we'll have Senator Kramer introduce Dr. Kerwin.
Well, good evening, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of Executive Noms, and Senate President Ferguson. Ben Kramer here from District 19. The nominee that I am going to be asking your support for may not be particularly familiar to you. So I'm just going to read a couple of things about the nominee, and hopefully, despite the fact that he may be a stranger, you'll hopefully offer your support. Colleagues, the nominee is Chancellor Emeritus of the University System of Maryland. He is a nationally recognized authority on critical issues facing higher education. He served as Chancellor of the University System of Maryland, President of the Ohio State University, and President of the University of Maryland College Park. Before his presidency, he was a member of the University of Maryland Mathematics faculty for 24 years. He is past chair of, among other boards, the American Council for Higher Education, the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities, the American Association of College and Universities, the Business Higher Education Forum, and the National Research Council Board on Higher Education and Workforce. And when he had spare time, he also served as the co-chair and chair of the Knight Commission on Intercollegiate Athletics. In 2016, he was asked by the Maryland General Assembly and then Governor Larry Hogan to chair the Commission on Innovation and Excellence. And the commission was charged with developing recommendations that would enable Maryland pre-K through 12 schools to perform at the level of the best performing school systems in the world. The commission's recommendations were encapsulated in a bill, the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, which was enacted in 2021. The bill will lead to major reforms in Maryland's public school system. Colleagues, the nominee currently serves as vice chair of the University Maryland Medical Center Board and vice chair of the state's Accountability and Implementation Board. And with that, it is a pleasure and an honor to offer my full support of one of the Fighting 19th's own, the man, the myth, the legend, that is Dr. William E. Britt Kerwin for the Accountability and Implementations Board. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. That was extraordinary.
You're extraordinary.
Thank you, Senator Kramer. That was such a wonderful introduction. As they say, it's one my father would have appreciated, but only my mother would have believed. Senator President Ferguson, Chairman Lamb, Vice Chair Muse, thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you today. I want to express my appreciation to Governor Moore for his renomination of me to serve on the Accountability and Implementation Board. I've been involved with the blueprint since its inception and would be eager and happy to serve to ensure that the blueprint achieves the goals that the legislature has set and that it's implemented with full fidelity. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
Questions from the committee? I'm sure there's questions. So we'll start with Senator King.
Say this is a question. It's an affirmation. I have had the chance to work with Dr. Kerwin many different ways over the past many years, and you've done such a fabulous job with the AIB so far, and you just kind of complete that whole committee. So I'm happy to see you hanging on with it.
Thank you very much.
Senator Croza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Dr. Kerwin, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
We go back to our Buckeye days.
We do indeed.
So I appreciate working with you in the past and here. I really actually appreciate this opportunity you're coming before us. The position on the Accountability and Implementation Board is one of the most powerful positions in state government. And we are at a crucial point with our education plan in the state of Maryland. And I want to just, thinking back to when we first started those meetings with the commission and where we are today.
Right.
There was, in the beginning, some of us really tried to focus those meetings to make sure that as we were developing plans and recommendations, some of us focused on affordability and local flexibility. Now, if we fast forward, we're 3 years into implementation of the Blueprint Education Plan. So my two questions for you are, one, I would like to know a brief summary of your review of the 30 recommendations that have been put forward by the local school superintendents, who, as we all know, it's very rare that they would agree on any one recommendation, let alone 30 plus. So they're coming forward with specific recommendations on improving implementation. So that's my first question. And the second question is a specific question on the teacher collaboration 60-40 breakdown. In our joint committee a couple weeks ago, AIB Chair Ike Leggett acknowledged that the pause in the 60-40 teacher collaboration would allow time for a true review of the 60% to see if that's where we should be at this point. We have teachers themselves raising questions if being over a little bit over 60, only 50% in the classroom is the right percentage. And Chair Ike Leggett indicated that this would give an opportunity to really look at that number to see if we have that right. So I want to, again, two questions, the superintendent's recommendations and specifically 60-40.
Right. Yes. Well, thank you very much for those questions. We, of course, have taken the superintendent's recommendations very seriously. A number of us met with them for dinner in Annapolis, where they had a chance to present the recommendations. We had a joint meeting with the State Board of Education to review the letter. And we developed a point-by-point response, which I believe has been given to all the members of the General Assembly. I would say that 3/4 of their recommendations, we had a pretty strong consensus, either approving or agreeing with their recommendation or agreeing to provide, thinking they had made a very good point that we needed to formulate some policy to address. So I think there has been, and I believe the superintendents would say, a very positive response from AIB and the State Board of Education to their letter.
And those would have been broken down legislative and non-legislative?
Yes,
since
absolutely.
you can do both?
Yes, it's probably, I know you get a lot of mail and a lot of paper, but somewhere in your file will be our formal written response to each of the recommendations.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah.
I guess I was looking in this forum, a couple of highlights that, again, that, you would want to speak to.
Well, one issue that came up was the how we address the issue of the collaboration between the publicly funded preschools and the private preschools, and the focus on Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 students. And they made us some recommendations that I think we felt made a lot of good sense. That would be one example. There are issues related to a delay in the presentation of their career ladder plans, which were originally targeted for sometime this spring, and we've granted that delay in the completion of those plans. Those would be two examples of where they had a recommendation asking for support on school funding. We endorse that completely.
And then the 60-40
Yes.
teacher collaboration?
Right. Well, I think the Chair Leggett said, first of all, the AIB took action at one of its board meetings recommending that there be a delay for the simple fact that we just couldn't hire the teachers necessary to implement the Career Ladder initiative. So we made that recommendation, and if there is a pause, it would obviously give us some time to go back and look how can we best and most effectively implement this collaborative time initiative in the blueprint. So we have, I think, a real sense of commitment to doing that in partnership with MSDE and the State Board.
But just to be clear, it was my understanding of Chair Leggett's response was that it would actually look at the 60% to see if there was something magical about the 60%, particularly if it appears to be unachievable.
Right.
And, the response is, well, the 60%, if it was based on looking at other countries, maybe we need to look at our situation here in
Right.
Maryland now to see if that is the right percentage.
Right. Well, any serious look at this would obviously include that a scrutiny of the 60-40 and its appropriateness. I would just add that this whole notion of collaborative time came from the commission that I had the privilege of chairing, and what we learned in all of the high-performing school systems, they have this concept of collaborative time because that's how teachers can work together to improve the curriculum, to work on pedagogical issues. Actually, in those countries, it's more like a 50-50. And so we made an adjustment for Maryland to make it 60-40, but obviously we will look at that ratio as we scrutinize how best to implement this recommendation.
Yeah, I don't want it misinterpreted about the value of
Right.
teacher collaboration, but there's a real serious issue now looking at the percentage.
We understand that
Thank you.
clearly.
Senator Hershey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Dr. Kerwin, thank you for coming to the committee as well, too. There's been longstanding concern from a number of us about the lack of diversity on the AIB board. And if you look at the 7 members that are currently on, all of them are from counties essentially in the central part of the state. When the commission that you led discussed how the blueprint would be implemented, I wonder if there is or was concern that the board can adequately address the concerns of smaller schools in the rural areas of the state. You know, and if you take a look at the one-size-fits-all policy that you've implemented, you know, one county has a $3 billion annual education budget, and a county I represent has 1 high school and less than 1,800 students. How do you bring them together under this policy as you're evaluating the plans that are coming in from each of the counties?
Well, one of the things that the AIB board did right at the start was to create advisory committees for each of the pillars. And we made a very conscious effort to ensure that we had broad diversity on these advisory committees, including geographic diversity. And we take these advisory committees very seriously. Board members are assigned to each of the advisory committees. They have an opportunity to come to the board and make a presentation on their work. And we feel that we're getting excellent feedback from across the state on the implementation issues.
And these advisory boards, obviously, they're not commissioners on the AIB. Do they carry enough of a weight for the commissioners to understand and take in their considerations?
Based on my experience with them today, absolutely. As I say, board members attend the advisory board meetings. Staff from AIB attend the advisory board meetings. They come to the board and make their recommendations, and they've shaped our opinions on a number of issues. So I think it's been a very effective way of ensuring that we get the voice from across the state.
Okay. And with respect to each of the county's plans, obviously they have all been provided to you now, I think.
And approved.
And approved.
Yes.
Obviously, the cost of this cannot go undiscussed. When the commission was in place, first of all, was there ever a concern about how the blueprint would be affordable?
Well, the charge to the commission was twofold. Make recommendations so that Maryland schools would perform at the level of the best performing school systems in the world. And secondly, do a cost analysis of what it would take to achieve those goals. That's what the commission did. That was its charge, and that's what the commission did not get into the issue of how the funds for meeting the fiscal commitment would be made, because we weren't asked to. What we were asked to do is say, what would it cost? And that was the information in our report.
So in the what would it cost, is that the analysis that DLS provided to us, the $40 billion over 10 years, or what did it cost?
Well, it was in the recommendations that the commission made to the General Assembly, most of which I think after the General Assembly's review and consideration became part of the blueprint. But we did a very thorough cost analysis of what do these initiatives cost to do them the right way. And that's what went into the commission report. And then the General Assembly had a chance to take that information and scrutinize it in any way that they seemed fit. And they did, and then that became the blueprint.
Okay, and then, Mr. Chair, last question. So now that you've seen and approved each of the county's plans.
Right.
Some of the counties, I understand, are coming back and saying that it is not affordable for them to be able to fully implement the blueprint based on what the requirements are. And again, in some smaller counties, they just simply can't tax their way into finding the revenue to pay for this. When that comes up in the county's plans, how is that specific issue of affordability addressed?
Well, to the best of my recollection, I don't recall any of the plans saying they couldn't afford the blueprint. What we have done.
Couldn't afford maybe all of it, but they were instructed to come in and say, what areas can they afford, right?
Well, no, they gave us a 5-year plan. And we approved those 5-year plans. Now, I don't know what their assumptions are on revenue, but we approved what they said they could do over the next 5 years. And it was consistent with what we interpret the General Assembly asked us to do, that if they did these things, they would be faithfully implementing the blueprint. Now, we have brought in, the AIB has had in its initial budget the ability to hire a certain number of consultants. And we have provided financial consultants to, I think, all of the LEAs, maybe with one exception. And they have gone out and worked with these counties to help them think through how to make the finances of the blueprint work. I will say this, that when we did the blueprint, it wasn't assumed that this was just an add-on top of everything else we'd been doing, that this is going to require some readjustments and spending money in different ways to support the blueprint. And we think these consultants have been of great help to the LEAs.
With respect to each local?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate
Welcome.
it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Senator McKay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good, Doctor. How are you, sir? Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Former Commissioner Bill Valentine sends his
Oh, well,
regards.
thank you.
So
Thank
he's
you.
spent quite a many good times with you.
Well,
and
I've enjoyed
debating the issues. So that's not. Sir, my question has to do along these financial consultants. Do we have an idea how much money has been spent on outside consultants and vendors?
Yeah, we do. I don't have that number, but we could
Understood,
get
but if
that
you
money.
could get that to everybody.
Absolutely.
That
yeah.
would be
It was
fine.
all part of our budget in the initial allocation of funds for the blueprint.
Okay, all right. As for the AIB and accountability, I understand that each school system is required almost 200 reports to be submitted to the MSD and the AIB
Yes.
on an annual basis. Can you elaborate what's been
well,
done with these reports?
Well, we saw that in the letter that the superintendent sent us. So obviously, we thought we better check that number and see what turns out. Of that, I think it was 300, but only 19 are related to the blueprint.
Okay.
The vast majority of them are federal reporting requirements. So they took all of the reports they have to do and put that in the letter, but it's only 19 of those reports were to the AIB.
Okay. And of those 19, is there been any kind of analyzing of that data of those 19 reports?
Oh, absolutely.
And does that go back to the school system?
Absolutely. Every LEA has a blueprint coordinator, and we are in constant communication. We have meetings with the coordinators on a regular basis, providing them feedback. I mean, there is an unbelievable amount of communication between AIB and the LEAs giving feedback. In fact, when many of the plans were initially submitted, they weren't approved. So we gave them feedback on the adjustments that needed to be made to these plans. They made the adjustments and the plans got approved.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions? Oh, Senator Roosevelt.
Yeah, thank you. I will not expound on Senator Kramer's terrific introduction. We obviously have known each other a long time, and I agree with everything he said, and I agree with everything Senator King said. I just want to add that having followed the commission's process and the legislative process, I'll speak for myself, one of my major concerns, others shared it, was would we be able to implement this thing? And that's why we set up the AIB.
Right.
And I just have to say that your performance, your personal performance on the AIB has shown exactly the skills that I saw through your entire career at Maryland, which is an ability to work with people to accomplish big things. So I'm for you.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Dr. Kerwin? Seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you
for
so
your time
much for
tonight.
this opportunity.
we're going to go next to Jennifer Lynch, who is also a reappointment to the Accountability and Implementation Board. She is a constituent of Senator Beidle's in District 32. No, she's not. Oh, all right. She moved. Okay, she moved.
No, there was some confusion.
I was wondering if she had moved out of my old district into 32. It looks like that's not the case. All right, so
No.
correction on the agenda. Thank you.
Yes, in fact, I got the email today because I thought she moved. I saw her name on my list initially, and then it was off the list. Maybe Jennifer moved. Good evening, everyone. This is Charles Sidnor presenting Jennifer Lynch or Dr. Jennifer Lynch this evening. You had an opportunity to speak to someone who talked about post-secondary education. This is someone who has some expertise in K through 12 education. That's when I first met Dr. Lynch, when the Catonsville community was going through a redistricting process, and she was, I believe at the time, the principal at Hillcrest. So I believe you have an extremely good person that's going to be sitting on this board, and with this I present Dr. Lynch.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Senator Sidnor, for your wonderful introduction. And I also want to express my gratitude to President Ferguson, Chair Lamb, Vice Chair Muse, and to all of the members of this committee. It is my pleasure to stand before you here today. It was my pleasure to first be nominated for this board by former Governor Larry Hogan, and I am deeply honored to once again be nominated by Wes Moore. And with that, I stand ready to answer any questions.
All right, any questions from the committee? I'll just take the liberty to second the nomination. Remember when I first knocked on your door probably about 10 years ago and was worried that you had moved to District 32. Still glad to see that you're in Southwest Baltimore County. I have since moved outside of the Southwest Baltimore County part of the district. You're now constituent of Senator Sidnor, but I'm glad to see you here.
It's good to see you, sir.
Senator, no? All right, okay. Senator Carrezza, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Dr. Lynch. I have that special Catonsville connection. My mom grew up in Catonsville.
Great
so.
place.
I wanted to ask you, given your experience already on the board and now where we are with implementation, some of the challenges that are being recognized, some of the recommendations that are coming forward from the superintendents and others, but specifically, especially given your K through 12 experience, how do you think, or how do you ensure that the voice of parents, students, and the community is part of moving forward? Frankly, when you hear AIB, Accountability and Implementation Board, it sounds a little intimidating. And, you know, the parents have a lot of questions as we're moving forward. I'd really like your perspective on that.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the question. And I have the privilege of being a mother of 5, so I experience K through 12 and Maryland education system both as a parent and as an educator. And I've had the opportunity to serve in K through 12 as well as now in higher education. So I'm really thrilled to bring those personal perspectives. I spend a lot of time communicating with members in my community, with members who have questions. The AIB does a wonderful job of providing opportunities for input both at our board meetings as well as going out into the community to have opportunities to sit with small communities and answer questions and to listen, whether or not it be to union leaders, to PASAM leaders, to the MSEA. You know, we stand ready to listen and to integrate that information as we make decisions. You know, I just have to take a minute of personal privilege to thank our Executive Director Heiss and her staff. This is a brand new agency. So while we were also standing up the implementation of the blueprint, we were standing up a brand new agency. So there has been a lot of work that has been underway in these past many years. And so we are ready now with these fully approved implementation plans to move into the next phase. And we're really excited about the work to come.
And Dr. Lynch, just as a follow-up, I appreciate the relationships you have with those organized groups. I think where I was kind of pressing a little bit is that interaction with parents, community, And if you mentioned going out into the communities, I think that's really important for the AIB members to have that, maybe not such always a structured, organized group, but actually have that interaction with the parents.
I think that's wonderful, and I think that's wonderful feedback. We've had great opportunities to travel with MSDE and as individuals around to individual schools and to communities, and I think I will take it under advisement to continue to do that as we move forward.
Thank you.
Senator Hershey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Lynch, thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir.
You also have mentioned that all of the counties have now received an approval for their fully implemented plans. How will the AIB address the effectiveness of these plans?
So we have an outcomes measure committee that we have created that came forward with a set of recommendations of what the metrics would be to actually assess the implementation. We continue to evaluate that. We have also just recently hired a consultant that will do our interim report to really look at the comprehensive implementation and data related to that to give us information about how all of these programs and plans are being implemented in the outcomes.
When you say you have a consultant, does that mean that these plans will be publicly available, the metrics and
Yes,
whether
sir.
or not these achievements have been made?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Senator McCain.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Really excited there, Dr. Lynch, about being a former principal. And my question really talks about the relationships with the teachers. Through this whole implementation, we have consisting of all kinds of meetings, all kinds of, in my view, 3,000 view on how this is going to happen. What support systems do you see that the AIB can have for teachers that just want to teach? I mean, we've actually had some teachers that are just, I get all this, and that's wonderful for you in Annapolis, and we can analyze it, and we can do all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I just want to teach, and I don't know how to answer them. How can you help me to answer them, please?
So I think there's wonderful things that have been established within the Blueprint for Maryland's Future that really do speak to the professionalism of teachers. The first is ensuring that every single teacher has the pay that they deserve for the work that they do. So that was one of the things that we were really excited to see, that across the state of Maryland, before the Blueprint actually required it, all of our teachers now make $60,000 a year. So the first thing is having your time valued at that level. The second part is really considering the professionalism of teachers. So the career ladder is a great example in which we have worked with LEAs to think about strategically how are we building out a career ladder, and how are we providing that technical assistance to LEAs to make sure that those career ladders are the professional development that teachers want and need to be able to do exactly what you're talking about, which is just teach. And I think the third is to make sure that we're also focusing in on making sure that we have pathways to teaching and making sure that we have enough teachers in the pool so that we can continue to consider more collaborative time in the future. How can we provide more supports? The other thing about the Blueprint is the comprehensive wraparound supports and services that, having been in a school, what is most difficult for so many teachers is that they're not just teaching. They're the school nurse, they're the school social worker, they're the school counselor, they're doing interpretive services for some of their families. So the Blueprint makes sure that all of those services are available so that teachers can do the work that they want to do.
So, and I don't mean this with any disrespect.
No, that's fine.
Okay. I understand from hiring new teachers, but my wife is a substitute teacher. If I came back to her and said, well, we're not going to expect a higher level of teaching out of you because we're now going to pay you more, she would say that that's not why I got into teaching.
Right.
And so I don't mean with any disrespect, but for you to say, now that we're paying a base level, what I hear you is saying, now we're going to have a better outcome. And I think that's very disrespectful to anybody in the teaching profession that has been in it for the long term that they have. I understand an attraction and getting people to come into the profession. But I certainly can't say that to my wife.
No, I wouldn't want you to. You would get in a lot of trouble.
There's no doubt about that. So,
And-
and that speaks to my question, that we can talk all up here and how this is blah, 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 but how does it get down to the classroom where somebody wants to teach? You are correct. We are asking them to be the nurse and blah, 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 blah. It just seems to me we're going to be requiring these teachers more meetings to go to, more implementation to understand exactly what we're trying to do, and just teaching the kids basic how to grow up and function in the state of Maryland. And so it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out, but please remember the teachers. And I know that you do.
Yes.
I don't mean that in any disrespect. But at the end of the day, I firmly believe a teacher just wants to teach. And we need to figure out the way to get out all of this up here so that we can then give the time for them to actually be with the students. So thank you. Thank you for letting me ramble. I apologize.
No, that is wonderful, and thank your wife, because being a substitute teacher is absolutely one of the hardest jobs in a building, and we do appreciate it. And I do want to.
She actually thinks being my wife is the hardest job, but that's beside the point.
And if I could just offer a point of clarity, because I in no way mean that if we pay teachers more, that the gift of pay somehow just offsets anything else that we should be doing for teachers. I do think that teaching is the most important and the most amazing profession. I had the benefit of being a school psychologist into administration, and every day I walked into a classroom and was amazed at what teachers can do, and I remain in amazement of what teachers can do. And I think what the Blueprint has the opportunity to do, and what it is designed to do, in investments in community schools, in investment in multilingual learners, in investments in those wraparound supports and services, is to make sure that all of that happens so that teachers can teach. And the Blueprint doesn't say anything about meetings or the number of meetings that you have to attend. It's about those services and supports.
Okay. Well, on behalf of the 8 children that we have in school, thank you very much for what
Thank
you
you,
do.
sir. Thank you.
All right, seeing no further questions, thank you, Dr. Lynch. We appreciate your time tonight. Next, we're going to go to Justin K. Robinson, also for the Accountability and Implementation Board, constituent of District 23, and that's Senator Watson.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Chair Lamb, Vice Chair Muse, Senate President Ferguson, and colleagues all. I am happy to be here, Senator Ron Watson, 23rd District, representing Bowie, Upper Marlboro, Mitchellville. I'm honored to introduce Justin K. Robinson, who has been reappointed to serve on the Accountability and Implementation Board. And I will tell you, as a former school board member, I find all of these appointments to the AIB very, very exciting. Mr. Robinson has a Master's of Education from the University of Maryland, his doctorate from Johns Hopkins University, and has served as adjunct professor at Prince George's County Community College, active member of the Blueprint Implementation Committee, and member of the Blueprint Career Ladder Development Team, nationally board certified in mathematics. I am proud to introduce Mr. Robinson.
Hello. Excuse me. Thank you, Senator Watson, for that introduction. And also, thank you, Senate President Bill Ferguson, Chair Lamb, and Vice Chair Muse for this opportunity to stand before you all today and in support of my re-nomination to the Accountability and Implementation Board. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer those.
Senator President.
Thank you, and thank you for your service. Just a question, when I was looking at your resume, I saw that you have experience in the mathematics department, and my question would be along those lines. Given the substantial financial commitment, from your experience with AIB, what plans do you think should be in place to ensure that the Blueprints initiatives are sustainable for the future?
Okay. Thank you for that question, Senator. I think that what I'm most excited about is that the General Assembly and our governor Westmore, thank you for the appointment. I'm grateful that you all have put forth a lot of energy and effort in supporting the goals of the blueprint so far up until this point. As you know, this current fiscal year and 2 fiscal years in the future, through the special funds revenue, we're doing okay, but there might be some deficits go out into the future. So I'm grateful that we've seen so much investment in what we're doing so far with the blueprint. We have many more teachers becoming national board certified, like I am, which is a great professional development experience. We've had more children participating in pre-K programs. That's been a great experience for students. And we've seen a lot of improvement in our literacy scores on a national level in the NAEP. So I think that a lot of the investments that we've been putting forward as a state are showing a lot of promise currently.
And I appreciate that. I think the concern that we have as a Maryland General Assembly is that the blueprint is not paid for in the out years. And so it's something that we all, AIB, all of us need to grapple with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Augustine.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Lamb. I just want to co-sign on Justin's nomination for this as someone who has committed a tremendous amount of time as a teacher in Prince George's County schools, and on top of that, become a national leader in this space of educating our children. I just very strongly support this nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
All right, seeing no further questions, thank you so much. We appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
We're going to do a little bit of skipping around, so bear with us here. Oh, it's your birthday. All right. We'll take Senator Augustine next. This is the nominee number 5, the Affordable Housing Trust Board of Trustees, Brittany Drakeford, constituent of District 47 of Senator Augustine's, and happy birthday.
Yes, yes. How are you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you too. Good to see you too. Good afternoon or good evening, members of the Executive Nominations Committee. I am here to present Brittany Drakeford for the Affordable Housing Trust Board of Trustees. I've known Ms. Drakeford now for a number of years as my constituent, as someone who has been an unbelievable volunteer in one of our municipalities, and just someone who's very, very much attached to our community. But, and that's important, that's very important, but we also have someone here who is very, very talented in this space that will be able to really contribute to this Affordable Housing Board. She has been a community planner working for Maryland National Park and Planning, which has given her a breadth of experience from there, and then also within Prince George's County as an assistant to the planning director. So she really understands the importance of the planning aspects, and she's done extensive work on zoning, the things that we know are so critical when we're looking at this affordable housing crisis that we have. I highly recommend her for this position, and I present Brittany Drakeford. Brittany.
Thank you so much, Senator Augustine, for your introduction. Good evening, Senate President Bill Ferguson, Executive Nominations Chair Clarence Lom, Vice Chair Anthony Muse, and members of the committee. I want to sincerely thank you for the opportunity to be here today for my confirmation hearing for the Board of Trustees for the Maryland Affordable Housing Trust. It is an honor to be considered for this role, and I appreciate the time and attention you are giving to this process. I would like to also express my gratitude to Governor Wes Moore for this appointment. I am deeply committed to advancing affordable housing solutions in Maryland and look forward to contributing to the important work of the trust in ensuring equitable access to safe, stable, and affordable housing for all Marylanders. I welcome any questions that you may have for me today.
Any questions for this nominee? Seeing none, thank you so much. We appreciate your time this evening. All right, of course, you're welcome. Happy birthday. We're going to do a little bit of skipping around. I know the Morgan State Board has a board meeting this evening, so if we can Skip to them. We're going to bring forward Swati Agrawal, and she's a constituent of District 16, Senator Love. Senator Love could not be here this evening, so I'll read in brief the letter that Senator Love presented for this nominee. So Swati Agrawal is the CEO and co-founder of FirmSeek, an award-winning web marketing company that has helped leading professional services firms expand their market reach. Since founding the company in 1999, Swati has led it to nearly 400 international honors. Beyond her business success, she has been deeply engaged in organizations that promote education and equity, serving on the boards of Woolly Mammoth Theater Company, the Yale Law School Executive Committee, the Truman Scholars Association, and the DC Legal Aid Marketing Advisory Committee. She earned her Bachelor of Arts in Economics with high distinction from the University of Michigan, where she was named a Truman Scholar. She later earned her JD from Yale Law School as a John Olin Fellow and was recognized by the Florida Supreme Court for outstanding pro bono work on behalf of Cuban refugees detained at Guantanamo Bay. I urge the committee to confirm Swati Agrawal's reappointment to the Board of Regents, and this is the letter from Senator Love. With that, you may proceed.
Thank you, and thank you to the members of the committee for your time this evening. I'd just like to thank you all for your service. Working this late is not something that we all do all the time. I would also like to thank Governor Moore for his nomination for my reappointment. And with that, I would welcome any questions that you might have.
Any questions for this reappointment to the Morgan State Board of Trust, Board of Regents? Seeing none, thank you so much. We appreciate your time this evening. Next, we're going to go on to Julissa Ferreras, who's a constituent District 11. All right, we may pause you for a second. I think Senator Hedelman might have stepped away for a second. Just give us one moment here. In the meantime, we'll proceed to the next one. This is nominee number 24, John Wayman Henry III, for his appointment to the Morgan State Board of Regents. He is currently resident out of state, so I'll go ahead and introduce him. So it's my pleasure to introduce John Wayman Henry III for nomination in the Morgan State Board of Regents. He has a bachelor's and a master's from Morgan State University and previously served as the Director of Securities for the Maryland State Treasurer's Office. Since leaving state service, Mr. Henry has served in high-level executive roles at several businesses and currently serves as a senior vice president of a large real estate development, construction, and property management firm. Mr. Henry's connection to Morgan State and his extensive executive experience make an important asset to the board. And with that, happy to present Mr. Henry to the Executive Nominations Committee. You may proceed.
Thank you, Chairman. First, let me thank Senate President Ferguson, thank Chairman and Executive Vice Chair Muse, excuse me. This is a great honor. Want to definitely thank Governor Moore for entrusting me to come back and serve Maryland. I served time here, right here in Annapolis with Treasurer Dixon back in '97. And this is such a great state. It's truly an honor to be back here. And with that, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Senator Sidnor.
I wanted to say Mr. Henry comes from a very, very well-connected and important family in Maryland. His father's a fraternity brother of mine. He's a fraternity brother of mine. His your cousin is the city's comptroller. So, I mean, when you talk about the Baltimore City Henrys, this is who you're talking about, and he'll do a wonderful job at his alma mater.
Thank you so much, Senator.
And Vice Chair.
Thank you. I just want to say I'm a graduate of Morgan. I graduated, I guess in 1955. And welcome, and it's just good to know that you'll be in that position.
Thank you so much, Senator. Appreciate that.
Any further questions for this nominee? If not, thank you so much. We appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and call up Julissa Ferreras Copeland. All right. I think Senator Hedelman must have stepped away for a few minutes. I will go ahead and introduce this nominee for the Board of Regents to Morgan State University. So Ms. Ferreras Copeland has had extensive prior experience as a public servant, public policy expert, and also civic leader for over 20 years in areas like government relations, fiscal policy, higher education, and public-private partnerships. She is a retired elected official, I think serving on the New York City Council in the 21st District for 8 years, and then also had served as Chief of Staff to the City Council and as well to the NALEO Education Fund's New York State Tri-State Regional Director, and most recently here as the Hollis Public Affairs Partner for the last few years. And her experience in government public relations and budgeting and finance, as well as public-private partnerships, will make her an asset to the Morgan State University Board. With that, you may proceed.
Thank you and good evening. Thank you to the Senate President Bill Ferguson, Executive Nomination Committee Chair Clarence Lamb, Vice Chair Anthony Muse, and thank you to Governor Wes Moore for my nomination. I just want to take this opportunity to thank my family for their unwavering support that continues to allow me to serve in positions such as this, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for this nominee? Seeing none, thank you so much. We appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
All right, in spirit of trying to get our gallery of senators in the back through, Senator Kramer has one more. So if we ask Senator Kramer to come forward. This is nominee number 32, Maricela Cordova, for the Maryland Transportation Authority, and her appointment to their board. Senator Kramer, you may proceed.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Ben Kramer. It's a pleasure to be here to introduce Maricela Cordova. She is a successful executive with over 25 years of professional experience in architectural, engineering, and construction programs for federal, state, and local governments. She currently serves as the Montgomery County Department of Transportation's Special Assistant to the Director, Transportation Strategic Projects. She is responsible for oversight, executive leadership, and implementation of critical priority projects such as the Purple Line light rail project and associated county-funded projects like the county zero emission bus transition plan and the bus rapid transit mega program. With that, thank you very much, and I will turn it over to Ms. Cordova.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator Kramer, for that introduction. Good evening, Senate President Ferguson, Committee Chair Senator Lamb, and Vice Chair Senator Muse, distinguished members of the executive nominations. It is an honor to be here before you. I am very thankful for the trust that Governor Moore has instilled in me with this nomination to become a member of the Maryland Transportation Authority Board. I appreciate your time and consideration today, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Cordova? Seeing none, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here this evening. We've got a request for the University of Maryland Medical System Board of Directors, and this is Janet Saunders Curry. Good to see you again. And she's a constituent of District 27 of Senator Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, Mr. President, members of the Executive Nominating Committee. For the record, Senator Michael Jackson, District 27, on behalf of Ms. Janet Curry from Calvert County, Maryland. Ms. Curry is nominated for the University of Maryland Medical Systems Corporation Board of Directors. She is currently the President and Marketing Executive of the Bank of America Greater Maryland. Ms. Curry is one of Maryland's premier business leaders with over 30 years of business and corporate strategy experience, which she will bring to the University of Maryland medical system. She's also an undergraduate. She holds an undergraduate degree of economics from Spelman College and a master's degree in accounting from New York University. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce and to support Ms. Janet Curry to serve on the University of Maryland Medical System Corporation Board of Directors. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Jackson. Good afternoon, Senate President Ferguson. How are you? Good to see you. Chair Lamb, good to see you as well. And Vice Chair Muse, thank you for having me. Thank you to the committee. And a special thanks to Governor Westmore for nominating me for this board. With that, I will see if there are any questions that I can answer.
Mr. President.
Very briefly, thank you, Mr. Chair. Very briefly, just want to say thank you. It's great to see you, Ms. Curry. And we were able to do some great work together on a branch that was closing and was get it into productive use with a community use. And just want to thank you for your efforts and know that you'll be a phenomenal addition to the board. So
thank you so much. I appreciate your support.
Senator Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to add a me too to the Senate President's comments. Ms. Curry is not only a banker, but an extraordinary corporate leader in a community, always giving back to communities throughout the city and the state of Maryland. And so it's with great honor that she accepted this nomination. So thank you so very much for your service.
Thank you, Senator Hayes.
Any further questions for Ms. Curry? Thank you so much for the
Thank you
opportunity to meet
very
earlier,
much.
and we're done. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you
for your
so
time
much.
this evening. Next, we're going to go to nominee number 7 for the Maryland Environmental Service. And we have Senator Sidnor for Sean Lynn Coleman, constituent District 44.
All right, Charles Sidnor, District 44. I am delighted to present Mr. Sean Coleman for his nomination by Governor Moore to the Maryland Environmental Services Board of Directors. Mr. Coleman is uniquely suited for this post, and I am grateful that he's stepping up to serve in this capacity. Up until his retirement in October 2024, he served as principal counsel at MES for 37 years. He provided legal advice to 7 MES directors and attended over 400 meetings of the MES board. Additionally, he was instrumental in drafting MES's governance statutes and regulations and played a pivotal role in the successful implementation of the MES Reform Act of 2021, which many of us all remember. So with that, I present to you my constituent, Mr. Sean Coleman.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the committee, Senate President Ferguson, Chairman Lamb, Chair Muse. My name is Sean Coleman. I'm grateful to Governor Moore for nominating me to serve on the Board of Directors of the Maryland Environmental Service. I also am grateful to Secretary Edwards and to Dr. Glass, the Executive Director of MES, for their support of my nomination, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that members of the committee may have.
Any questions, Senator Crowe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Coleman, thank you for your service with Maryland Environmental Service. And going back to my tenure with Governor Ehrlich, we spent, with MES, spent some time with assisting the municipalities. Right. I would just, now that I represent 11 municipalities, I'd just like your take and your experience on how MES can best work with the municipalities.
I think that the service that MES has provided to the municipalities over the years has been kind of the backbone of the agency in the water and wastewater field, but also on the solid waste side as well. And I think that their ability is that the type of service that the municipalities require can be tailored to the needs that they have. So you don't necessarily need to have a full-time person working at a municipal facility. They may only have to go there a couple of hours each day. So it would be my goal that MES continue to provide a high level of service to municipalities, especially the smaller municipalities, and particularly those in the rural areas where they can take advantage of the number of facilities MES operates and move people around on a daily basis to help them.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no further questions, thank you so much. We appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we're going to go to nominee number 6. This is for the Maryland State Board of Education. Omari Barnes is a constituent of Districts 26, and that's Senator Muse. And we'll have Senator Muse do the introduction.
Hi, Mr. President. That's what it looks like. President Ferguson and Chairman Lamb, this is it's a pleasure of mine to nominate this young man who has done a lot. And he is a dedicated community leader, advocate, and nonprofit director with a strong passion for law and politics. He believes that everyone deserves a chance at life and has put this belief into action through his charitable endeavors. Omari proudly founded the community organization Barnes and Scott Youth at Law, a youth-led nonprofit that provided young people with the resources that they need to pursue careers in law, public policy, and government. In addition to his nonprofit work, he's actively involved in several youth-led initiatives. I was proud to go and speak for one of them not long ago, and programs aimed at connecting the government with his peers. He serves on Congressman Glenn Ivy's Safe Streets and youth advisory boards. So much I can say about this young man at such a young age. The last one that I presented, who came from your school as well, went on to become the vice chair of the county council. So we expect great things from you. And with that, I'll submit his nomination.
Thank you so much to the committee, to Chair Lamb, to Vice Chair Muse, to Senate President Ferguson. I'm happy to be here to confirm that I am not as old as Senator Muse.
Okay, that's it for this.
But I am incredibly proud to be here, and I thank the governor for his trust. And I'm extremely excited to answer any questions that you have as this process moves forward with a focus on the students, the students, the students.
Any questions for Senator Reedy?
Mr. Chair, how old do you think Senator Muse? No.
Well, you know, we won't answer that question.
Good answer.
Yeah. I have no comment.
All right, a great sense of humor. Seeing no further questions for Mr. Barnes, thank you so much. We appreciate being here this evening. Next, we're going to go to nominee number 8. This is Kirsten Geddes Downs for the Commission on Hate Crime Response and Prevention, a constituent of District 41, and Senator Tar.
Good evening, committee. Mr. Chair, thank you. Mr. President, Mr. Vice Chair. This evening, I have the distinct honor of presenting Ms. Kirsten Geddes Downs for the Commission on Hate Crime Response and Prevention. I do want to mention that I also had the honor of sponsoring the bill that put the public defender on this, so this really is exciting to be here. Ms. Geddes Downs brings a wealth of experience and an unwavering commitment to justice, making her an outstanding fit for this important role. As the Director of Systemic Reform at the Office of the Public Defender and her prior role as Executive Director of the Homeless Persons Representation Project, she is dedicated to addressing systemic inequities and serving vulnerable communities. Without further ado, I present Ms. Geddes Downs.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
Thank you for this opportunity, Senate President Ferguson, Chairman Lamb, and Vice Chairman Muse. I would like to thank the governor for giving me this opportunity, and I'd like to recognize my senator, Attar, for her dedication to my community. I'm honored to be considered for this commission and grateful for the chance to contribute to Maryland's ongoing efforts to combat hate and discrimination for all communities. Thank you again for your time and your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for this nominee? All right, seeing none, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Senator Attar is here this evening. I will get this right at some point. We're going to skip ahead to nominee number 26, a constituent of yours in District 41. This is Mr. Michael Gambrill for the Board of Trustees of the Office of the Public Defender.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair, and most importantly, thank you for letting me go before Senator Watson. This evening, I now have the pleasure of presenting to you Mr. Gamblers. He's been nominated to serve on the Board of Trustees for the Office of the Public Defender. Mr. Gambrill is an exceptional attorney with a strong commitment to public service. He currently serves as a supervising attorney for the Public Defender's Office, and throughout his distinguished career, he has demonstrated a deep dedication to advocating for justice and fairness, particularly for those who cannot afford legal representation. So without further ado, I present to you Mr. Gambrill.
Thank you, Senator. Good evening, Chairman Ferguson. Good evening to all the senators here present today. I have a slight correction to make to my introduction in that I am no longer an assistant public defender. I have retired from that position. In my time with the public defender for 26 years, I was at one point district public defender for Baltimore City, in charge of running the city office. I was also a supervising attorney in Montgomery County for some 16 years. So I've been across the state as an assistant public defender and as the public defender for Baltimore City. But thank you. If you have any further questions, I'll answer at this time.
Any questions for Mr. Gambrill? All right, seeing none, thank you so much. We appreciate your time this evening. Let's continue through the nominees for the Board of Trustees for the Office of the Public Defender. We are going to go to the next nominee, number 27. This is Justin Holloman, constituent of District 8, and that is Senator Jackson.
Good evening, President Ferguson, Chair Lamb, Vice Chair Muse, and members of the Nomination Committee. For the record, I'm Senator C. Jackson, Legislative District 8. I'm here to present Justin Holloman to you for appointment to the Board of Trustees of the Office of the Public Defender. Justin is a criminal defense attorney who understands the important role that the Public Defender Office plays in the criminal justice system. He seeks this position on the Board of Trustees in order to play a hands-on role in shaping the effectiveness and impact of the Public Defender's Office in Maryland. I'm happy to present to you Justin Holloman and ask for your favorable nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Jackson. And good evening, Senate President Ferguson, Executive Nominating Committee Chair, Senator Lamb, and Vice Chair Anthony Muse. I want to thank Governor Moore for this appointment. I want to thank my wife, Dry Holloman, and my kids for giving me the opportunity to serve on this committee. I'm free to answer any questions if there are any.
Senator Reedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your willingness to serve. And I'm not going to ask this question of everybody coming up for these positions, but this is a question I'm sort of been interested in when we've had folks come before that are going to be on a public defender board like this. The public defender is a key role in our entire society. It's a very important job, and it sounds like you're somebody who looks like somebody takes it very seriously, which is great. we've heard a lot about funding challenges for the Office of Public Defender over the last many years. There's always a challenge to have enough representation. That's still the case, correct?
Yes, that's still the case, yes.
Okay. I would just, so I sat on the Judicial Proceedings Committee in the Senate for 6 years, and I have other friends who're sitting on that committee now, sitting in the House. Every year we'll have literally, it seems like a couple of dozen folks down from the Office of Public Defender to lobby. You're always lobbying against laws that would add criminal penalties. And that's the perspective of the public defender, and I respect it, even if I often will disagree.
Understood.
I just would advise that, to me, the optics of that aren't great. I think having some folks lobby is great, but having some, I've seen hearings where there's 6 or 7 public defenders testifying against the same bill. And so I'm not recommending a chilling effect on the public defender lobbying against bills they don't think are good, but I don't know, to me, the optics of that, and I've always wanted to mention that when folks have come up before us. I'll be supporting your nomination. You seem like an outstandingly qualified person to be on this board, but I just wanted to make that point. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Reddy.
Any further questions for Ms. Holloman? Seeing none, thank you so much. We appreciate your time this evening. Next, we're going to go to nominee number 28. This is Chantal Marcel Joseph, constituent District 23, and Senator Watson, also for the Office of Public Defender Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When the chair calls your name here, it's like winning the lottery. I'm Senator Watson, representing the 23rd District, Bowie, Upper Marlboro, Mitchellville, and proud to introduce Chantel Joseph for the Board of Trustees, the Office of the Public Defender. A distinguished and accomplished attorney with experience in providing exceptional legal representation. She received her BA in Political Science from Howard University and her JD from the University of Florida. A true pillar to the community, actively mentoring aspiring attorneys and law students within underserved communities, and serves as the president of the Haitian American Lawyers Association. Her deep commitment and advocacy for immigration rights and justice reform make her an excellent and exceptional candidate for this appointment. I'm proud to introduce to you Chantel M. Joseph, Esquire.
Thank you, Senator Watson, for the introduction. Thank you, Senate President Bill Ferguson, Executive Nominating Chair Clarence Lamb, and Vice Chair Muse, as well as the members of the committee, the Executive Nominating Committee. Thank you, Governor Moore, for this appointment and the trust that he has instilled in me to serve on the Office of the Public Defender Board of Trustees. This is a full circle moment for me because my first legal job was actually at the Office of the Public Defender in Baltimore City. And that is where I started. That is where my heart has always been. So I'm honored today to be here for this nomination to serve as a member of the Board of Trustees for the Office of Public Defender. At this time, I welcome any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Ms. Joseph? All right, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
This evening. Good job, good job. This may be like hitting the jackpot for Senator Jackson, but this is like air traffic control over here on this side of the seat. So we're just trying to coordinate. We're going to finish the Office of Public Defenders. Next is Aiden Smith, constituent District 43, constituent Senator Washington, Mary Washington.
The original Washington. Good evening, everyone. Senator Mary Washington here, 43rd District. Pleasure to see all of you. Pleasure to see you, Mr. Chair, Senate President, colleagues. I am really honored to introduce Aiden Smith, newly appointed to the Board of Trustees of the Office of Public Defender, asking you to accept his nomination or ratify it. Aiden is a distinguished attorney and an equity member at Peasant Katz Law, where he has built a respected career in criminal defense, commercial litigation, and civil rights advocacy. He has extensive experience in state and federal courts. Mr. Smith has successfully represented individuals and businesses in complex legal matters, including criminal defense, business litigation, and real estate disputes. His commitment to justice and public service is reflected in his leadership roles in the Maryland State Bar Association, the pro bono a bar pro bono resource center, and the Baltimore County Bar Association. Mr. Smith's legal expertise and his dedication to fairness and equitable treatment under the law will be an invaluable and guidance and support for the office, as a Board of Trustee for the Office of the Public Defender. I present you with Mr. Katz.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. Thank you for having me, Senate President, Chair Lamb, and Vice Chair Muse, and I'm open to answering any questions that the committee may have.
Any questions for Mr. Smith? Seeing none, thank you so much. We appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to go to Carrie Lee Smith, constituent District 8 of Senator Carl Jackson.
Colleagues, I didn't know I was presenting. I wasn't told that. But anyways, where's your?
They don't give me that.
Okay.
I'm happy to introduce myself.
What's your name? What is it?
It's really bad. Carrie Smith.
Carrie Smith. Okay.
Yeah.
So here to present Carrie Smith from Legislative District 8. There you go.
Thank you. Senate President Ferguson, Chair Lamb, Vice Chair Muse, and members of the committee, thank you for considering my appointment. And thank you to Governor Moore for this appointment. To give you a little bit of background about myself, I'm a partner at the law firm Silverman Thompson, which is based in Baltimore City, but practices all over the state. I've been practicing law for over 10 years. I have a very wide and varied practice, and I'm also very involved in our local bar associations. And I'm honored to have this opportunity to serve on the Board of Trustees for the Office of the Public Defender, and I am open to any questions you may have.
Senator Feldman.
Yeah, just real quick, I'm just trying to get a sense of why do we need a Board of Trustees for the public defenders? I mean, we don't do that for state's attorney general, and you've got private sector. Just a basic question, like what exactly is the function of the Board of Trustees for the Office of the Public Defender?
So I think part of the difference is our state's attorneys are locally based, jurisdictionally based, and the public defender is statewide. So the board is working to sort of coordinate the efforts of the public defender's office that are happening all over the state. Obviously, the issues are very much the same in all of the jurisdictions, but not exactly the same. Some of the bigger jurisdictions are obviously facing different issues than smaller jurisdictions. And I can tell you from my own experience in appearing in courts across the state that they sometimes operate a little bit differently. And so the board is sort of tasked with making sure that the public defender's office is proceeding in a coordinated fashion, and also just making sure that its administration is uniform and essentially something that this board, once it is fully appointed here, is all on board with in terms of, as Senator Reddy sort of pointed out, how we go about funding issues and those sorts of things.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, thank you for your time this evening. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
being here. Next, we're going to wrap up the Office of Public Defender, Board of Trustees. This is Christine DeFore, a constituent of District 37, and Senator Mounts will do the introduction.
I promise I won't flub it. Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, Mr. President, esteemed committee chair excellence here at the colleagues. Great to see everybody. It's an honor to present Christine DeFore to the committee for the Board of Trustees of the Office of Public Defender. The question was just asked about this, the Board of Trustees, and the state is very dynamic in that there's differences throughout the state. And coming from the Eastern Shore, Christine DeFore exemplifies so much in criminal defense. She's spent 30 years of her life in criminal defense, since it's over 10 years with the Talbot County Public Defender's Office, both in a counsel role and a supervisory role. And not only that, she's well known throughout the criminal defense bar back home, and she's also not unfamiliar with Annapolis. So with that, it's my honor to present Ms. DeFore for the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that generous introduction, Senator Mounts.
President Ferguson, Chair Senator Lamb, Vice Chair Senator Muse. Thank you for having me, members of this esteemed committee. I appreciate being here, and I want to say I'm genuinely thankful for Governor Moore's and Secretary Edwards' trust in me. What I would like to say, if I may, answer Senator Feldman's question a little bit more thoroughly. It's my understanding that the board hires and fires potentially the public defender. The board also appoints district public defenders. There's a district public defender here from the Eastern Shore. She's my former boss. I'm now in private practice, and she has to be appointed and appear before the board. So there's significant roles that the board does play and represent the entire state. I was a public defender for years in Montgomery County. I was a public defender for years in the Eastern Shore, Caroline County, Talbot County. Now, as a private practitioner, I go all over the Eastern Shore. So I want to thank you. My phone is always open on any given day for any questions that the members of the General Assembly might have, and I'm open to any questions right now.
Senator Croza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Ford, I do appreciate that additional explanation. My late brother was a public defender in Wicomico County. And the question I have for you, some conversations that I picked up with him, is sometimes there is a disconnect in these, the rural offices that are further away from Annapolis in the leadership of the overall Office of the Public Defender, and issues that maybe should be addressed are sometimes not. And I guess I wanted to ask you any thoughts that you had on supporting those public defenders in the more rural counties.
To be diplomatic, there are real differences with practicing in a county such as Montgomery County, where there's 45 public defenders potentially, or at least were there when I was there, to Wicomico, where unfortunately Wicomico's losing some real talent to private practice in the near future. So it's going to be a real challenge to not only staff, but to support. And yes, there are very real differences. When I was on the government relations team with the former public defender, Paul DeWolf, once he appointed me to the Eastern Shore, I raised those issues, that we have different issues. Everything's not cookie cutter. Baltimore City solutions are not always the same for Caroline County. And I recognize that, and I hope to bring that expertise to the board.
And I appreciate
sure
that,
the
because I think there was a sense, again, this might have been more in the past, that maybe there was a little bit of isolation on the leadership in Annapolis understanding what was going on in some of those local offices.
As you know, we have a relatively new statewide public defender, and I have a good relationship with her, and I hope, as a member of the board, I can raise some of these serious issues with her.
Thank you.
Senator Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chiming in to second the nomination, obviously you've come down to Annapolis. We rely upon you a lot in the Judicial Proceedings Committee to help us craft sound and wise policies. So I just want to say thank you for your expertise and your lending your time. I also want to say thanks for answering the question about the board, because the public defender sits atop a statewide enterprise but is not an elected position, and so the board plays an essential function in that regard. My friend from District 5 was right in pointing towards the budget concerns in terms, especially in our austere times here in Maryland. So I'm right to be keenly focused on the budget. But I will say it's important to put it on the record that much like the criminal law is vast, and you need different people to come down because different public defenders focus and have expertise in different areas of the law: criminal law, juvenile justice, auto, and the nuisance, the whole spectrum. And so there's a need for different people to come through Annapolis to provide different levels of expertise, because not every public defender is an expert in every area of the criminal law. If you could expound upon that.
Yes. When I was a member of the government relations team, there were 3 of us, and I carried a caseload as well as came down here. I didn't get paid anything extra. I did it because I love the politics and I love the advocacy. Right now, I advocate as president of the Maryland Criminal Defense Bar Association now that I'm in private practice. I will say that if you look at the public defender's website, you can get a big education. There's over 1,000 staff members, half of which I'm going to give roughly, because I'll learn it more if I'm on the board. About half are actually litigators. Some are social workers to do wraparound services for our clients. Others are support staff, and the support staff is not paid a whole lot, and they oftentimes will stay decades working for the agency. To answer or to expound on Senator Smith, we have felony trial divisions, district court divisions, juvenile representation where we represent, and so we have subject matter juvenile, they're only doing juvenile law. We have mental health divisions. We represent people who are NCR or ordered by the mental health to be committed, and they have a right to administrative hearings that the prosecutors participate in, as well as defense attorneys. We have, when you take away a parent's rights, TPR, you have a right, it's a constitutional moment if your child is being taken away from you. We have an entire division that's all they do is SINA and child in need of assistance and TPR. So the agency is vast, and there is a need for subject matter jurisdiction experts from the agency to testify. But I don't ignore the issue that the optics could look negative if you have 6 people testifying on the same thing from the agency when they should be in court. But if you have real subject matter jurisdiction experts, that hopefully will benefit the members of this General Assembly in making their decisions on pending bills.
Seeing no further questions, thank you so much. We appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you for allowing me to be here.
We're going to wrap up Senator Mouth's, and this is nominee number 19 for the Juvenile Services Education Board, Ms. Yolanda Boyd Holloway, constituent District 37.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Holloway is going to come on up. Mrs. Holloway, I apologize. Doctor, well, I say Mrs. because an acting principal is always, but Dr. Holloway, that's right, that's correct, I apologize. Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, it's an honor to present Dr. Holloway to serve on the Juvenile Services Education Board. Dr. Holloway is currently the principal of the proud Colonel Richardson Middle School. Colonel Richardson is a school that has just done wonderfully, especially following COVID under Dr. Holloway's leadership. She's also been the assistant principal of Lockerman Middle School in Denton. And in the Midshore, Lockerman carries a prestigious reputation. It's a great place, but it's also a tough place. And it has produced some incredible contributors to our community. She's also been a teacher, an English teacher at Queen Anne's County High School. So with that, it's my honor and privilege to be able to recommend Dr. Holloway for your consideration. Dr. Holloway.
Thank you, Senator Mounts. Good evening. Thank you to Senate President Bill Ferguson, Executive Nomination Committee Chair Clarence Lamb, and Executive Nomination Committee Vice Chairman Anthony Muse. I am honored that Governor Westmore has nominated me for this position. It is one of the highlights of my professional career. I would also like to thank my family, who is going to have me volunteering for yet one more thing. And I'm here today with my extended family. My mother is back here, friends from college and sorority sisters. So everyone is here. I'm an educator. And if what we say in class, are there any questions?
Seeing no questions, thank you so much. We appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
We're going to go to number 18. This is Linda Lamone for the Commission on Judicial Disabilities, constituent District 30, and that's Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues of the Executive Nominations Committee. I am here to present Linda Lamone, someone who probably needs no introduction, but I will try. Ms. Lamone served as the state administrator of our State Board of Elections for 23 years. She also served as counsel in our Attorney General's office for 11 years. She was special counsel to the Lieutenant Governor of Maryland for a time. She also served on our Attorney Grievance Commission for 28 years and the Charter Committee for the 5th Judicial Circuit for 35 years. Ms. Lamone's dedication and service to the state of Maryland is truly unparalleled. I did have an opportunity to speak with her about the critical role of being on the Judicial Disabilities Commission, making sure that justice is administered fairly in our state and that our judges truly are able to give their best service to those litigants and attorneys that find themselves before the court. We did talk about some of the needs that we've heard echoed in that community to make sure that our judges have support by way of mediation and services to make sure that they are able to present their best selves and their best foot forward. And with that, I'm proud to present to you my constituent, Ms. Linda Limon. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Quite welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. President Senator Ferguson, Chairman Lamb, Vice Chair Muse, if I may, I'd like to introduce Ann Albright, who is the chair of the commission and a judge over in Montgomery County. And she is here with me and to answer any questions that I can't. So I'm happy to answer any questions. It's nice to see everybody.
Senator King.
I would just like to second that nomination and tell you how wonderful it is to see you.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. You'll be great in that position.
Thanks.
Seeing no further questions, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time this evening. We're going to go next to the State Lottery and Gaming Control Commission. We're going to go to nominee number 20. This is Mr. Randy Mariner, constituent District 9, and Senator Hester. Senator Hester could not be here this evening, but I'm happy to introduce Mr. Mariner based on a letter that Senator Hester had provided. So this is from Senator Hester. I'm honored today to introduce Randy Mariner, who's been nominated to continue his service on the State Lottery and Gaming Control Commission. Mr. Mariner has been a dedicated leader on the commission for over 2 decades, serving in multiple capacities as chair, vice chair, and as commissioner since 2003. Most recently served as chair from 2017 to 2024, and now serves as vice chair. His deep institutional knowledge and results-driven leadership have played a vital role in shaping Maryland's lottery and gaming policies. Beyond his work in public service, he's been a highly successful entrepreneur. As the chairman and founder of the Victoria Restaurant Group, he has established renowned dining institutions in Howard County, including Victoria Gastropub and Manor Hill Brewery. And with that, let me allow Mr. Mariner to proceed.
Well, thank you for the introduction, Chair Lamb. Mr. President, Mr. Vice Chair, this is my 5th trip to this podium and my 4th governor. So any questions? I would say hello to a lot of my friends, but.
You're all right. Yeah.
Any questions? Senator Reedy.
Chair, thank you for willingness to serve. And I'm just curious, you all oversee, obviously, all the gaming in the state. Problem gaming has become a huge problem. The governor actually mentioned something about young men in his State of the State address. And what I see is, I won't say how old I am, we've been talking about how old everybody is, but as I see in my age group and a little younger, is people just being totally consumed now with gaming, whether it's sports betting on their phone or whether it's casino gaming. Can you talk a little bit about just how we can try to do better with helping people to not get trapped into this?
Well, you guys determine where the money goes. So we create the regulations and do the regulating. It's not our job to direct responsible gaming, although we support it as much as we possibly can. I didn't answer your question.
Yeah, it's okay. Do you think that the commission has a responsibility to try to help?
Oh, we absolutely
administer
do.
best practices?
Yes, sir, we do.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Senator Beidel.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank Mr. Mariner for his service. I've known him for probably 20 years.
At least.
Thank you for your work on the Lottery Commission. I'm going to second the nomination. Thank you.
Senator Gazone.
20 years with him. And we worked on many, many projects over years, and he's got a tremendous amount of common sense. I'm glad that you're doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Howard County Council, Anne Arundel County Council. So thank you all for your years of work.
All right, seeing no further questions, thank you, Mr. Mariner. We appreciate
you.
your time this evening. Next, we're going to go to Mr. Nicholas Mosby, constituent District 40, and of Senator Hayes. We'll have Mr. Mosby come up. This is for the State Lottery and Gaming Control Commission.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, Mr. Senate President. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here this evening. I'm Senator Antonio Hayes, representing the Fighting 40th District here in Baltimore City. It's my pleasure to introduce and give my full support to Nick Mosby's appointment to the Maryland State Lottery and Gaming Control Commission. Mr. Mosby is a lifelong Baltimorean and a dedicated public servant with a strong record of leadership, experience, and community engagement. Senator Sidnor, if you were here, I put it in my remarks, but then you left the room, so thank you. But Mr. Mosby is a graduate of the Baltimore Polytechnic Institute, one of the city's most prestigious public high schools, also a graduate of Tuskegee University, demonstrating his commitment to academic excellence and technical expertise. After completing his studies, he returned to his hometown of Baltimore to contribute his talents in public service and to his community. Mr. Mosby brings 15 years of public service experience, including time as a state legislator, where he served on a public policy committee that had legislative oversight for lottery and gaming and its subcommittee. He led on the fight to maintain Preakness in Baltimore, as well as leading to ensure that MBE and WBE participation in sports betting. As Baltimore City Council President, where he played a key role in fiscal oversight, policy development, and constituent services. His background in legislation, regulatory oversight, and governance makes him well-suited for this commission. He plays a crucial role in ensuring that integrity and responsible management of Maryland gaming lottery operations. In closing, I strongly support Nicholas Mosby's appointment to the Maryland State Lottery and Gaming Control Commission. His leadership, experience, and deep understanding of the responsibilities of this commission make him an excellent choice. I would say Nicholas's greatest accomplishments are the two young ladies that are sitting here in the audience, who are his daughters, who've come here to support him this night. And I will also urge the support of this confirmation. But finally, colleagues, he joins Senator Malcolm Augustine in celebrating his birthday today, right before this prestigious committee. I present to you Nicholas J. Mosby.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to my senator, Mr. Senator. Thank you for those warm remarks. Thank you to Senate President Ferguson, as well as Chair Lamb and Vice Chair Muse. Overwhelming majority of this room, I had the pleasure to serve directly with you in the House of Delegates. And in my political and professional and public service career, I really think that it was walking through these halls, being able to present in front of bodies like this and being over state regulation and policy as kind of the keystone of my career. It was ultimately why I went back to Baltimore City as City Council President to bring so much that I learned from a legislative perspective here in Annapolis back to the city that I love the most, Baltimore. I'm a lifelong Marylander. I'm a son of Baltimore City. And again, I am also a son of this body. And with that, I'll turn it over to you for any questions or concerns.
Senator Reedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good to see you, Mr. Mosby.
Great to see you, Senator.
Yep, delegate and council president.
Yeah.
So I just want to talk about the description of the commission and the people that are picked for it talks about the need for either somebody who's an executive with fiduciary responsibilities in charge of a large organization, in an academic field related to finance or economics, or an accountant, economist, or financial analyst. Looking at the qualifications, what do you believe your qualifications are for this position?
Thank you for the question. You know, I have an extensive public service record, but also an extensive professional record. Prior to becoming an elected official, you know, I had the pleasure of being an electrical engineer, where, you know, I was responsible for building 80, 90, $100 million cloud storage data centers. The entire team wrapped under me at a very young age. You know, for a major, you know, Fortune 20 company to give a responsibility like that to someone of my age with my background is very unique. I ultimately gave up that career to be in public service. But in that career, I had a tremendous amount of success. Building cloud storage data centers in Pomona, California, as well as Reston, Virginia, probably at a time when many people didn't really understand and know what cloud storage was. So again, I say that from a professional perspective. From a public servant perspective, being the chair of the Board of Estimates in Baltimore City as council president, it is that board that is the financial board of the city that oversees all the large spending of anything over the north of $25,000 to multi millions of dollars. What I will also say is in that role, this is the first time in hundreds of years that the city council had the ability not only to cut, but also redirect spending. And setting up that process on the city council and doing it in a very fiscally responsible as well as prudent way, I think was my leadership in the organization that I put forth. So I would give those two examples to speak directly to that, sir.
Can I, as a follow-up, thank you for those answers and for sharing some more of your experience. You know, there's been some public opposition to your appointment, and can you speak to the challenges that you went through, the things that happened from a financial perspective? Generally, we've had some other appointees in the past where there were personal financial issues, and the boards that they were being selected to be on dealt with fiduciary management, which this one does. And so why does the things that are in your background from tax issues and others, why should that not disqualify you from this position?
Well, I mean, I think that's a great question. Thanks for raising it. You know, I think there's been this narrative today of the ages of us in here. I would say some of you may be senior of mine, but I think if we look over the course of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, that there might be blips of issues, particularly if they're related to personal issues, be it medical issues, be it supporting your family. There's nothing that I've done in the past, I think, that's really important on this board to go against fraud, waste, abuse, or corruption in my personal life, as well as a member of this body or the city council. When we talk about times in our lives and we're supporting our family, again, I think it's time for it serves time for us to step up. I think when I stepped up during that time, I not only stepped up in the confines of my personal space in my house and my family, but also continued to do my job as it relates to being on the city council at that particular time. So, you know, obviously, you know, the media would like to talk about stuff that took place in my mid-30s, you know, more than a decade ago. I think that has absolutely nothing to do about my being right and ready to serve in this position that Governor Westmore has ultimately seen fit for me to do so, and I hope that this body provides me the opportunity as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's great to see you, Mr. Mosby, and I just want to tell you I am strongly supportive of your nomination. We have worked together for 15 years on a number of different issues, from horse racing to complicated city issues, and in every situation I have seen your dedication to try to get to the right answer and try to hear from all sides and understand what is the best way forward. And so I just want you to know that I'm strongly supportive of your nomination and appreciate you stepping back into service as things move forward.
That means a lot to me, Senate President. Thank you so much.
Any further questions of this nominee? Thank you, Mr. Mosby.
Thank you so much.
We're going to skip to nominee number 35 for Senator Watson, who's still here. This is for the University System Maryland Board of Regents, Ms. Dana Stebbins, Constituent District 23.
That's right. I hit the lottery twice in a row. Good evening, colleagues. Senator Ron Watson from the 23rd District, here to present to you Dana Stebbins, Esquire, for the University System of Maryland Board of Regents. I have known Ms. Stebbins for almost 20 years. She is a stalwart in my community, extraordinary attorney with more than 25 years of experience, providing advice in community and economic development activities, an exemplar scholar who earned her BA and master's degree from Howard University and her JD from Howard University. Actively involved in her community. She currently serves on the board of the Luminous Health Foundation. Strong dedication to education and economic and community development makes her an excellent candidate for this appointment. I am proud to introduce to you Dana Brewington Stebbins Esquire. Didn't know I knew your middle name, did you?
Thank you, Senator. Good evening, President Ferguson, Chair Lamb, and Vice Chair Muse, and members of the committee. It's my honor to be here today and to have accepted the nomination from Governor Wes Moore to serve on this board. I am open to any questions you might have, and so I'll turn it back over to you.
Any questions for Ms. Evans? Seeing none, thank you for the opportunity to meet earlier, and appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good to see you.
I know Senator Benson is here, so if we can go to nominee number 11. This is for the Maryland Higher Education Commission, and this is Ms. Narcisa Antonia Polonio, constituent of District 24, and Senator Benson.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It really is a genuine pleasure for me to stand here, first of all, to thank the governor. Governor Wes Moore reached around the country and brought on board an individual who I classify as the best and the brightest. I hope that I don't mispronounce her name. That's the thing that worries me a little bit here. But I have Dr. Polo O'Neill, who has come before us seeking a position, and I think it is well-deserved. She is recognized as one of the leading authorities on higher education governance, board of trustees, and executive coaching, presidential leadership and evaluation, and training in diversity, inclusion, and equity. She has facilitated over 600 boards of trustees, retreats, governance institutes, presidential searches, and leadership training for the senior cabinet and executive teams in colleges and universities. I could go on and on talking about this extensive and wonderful woman and her resume. She has served 18 years as the Executive Vice President of Education, Research, and Board Leadership Services as the Association of Community College Trustees, which is wonderful. She directed the Trustees for Student Success National Initiative, which seeks to increase the engagement of community college trustees and governing boards in the student success movement. Here's what I really love. She has an extensive list of publications and speaks throughout the country on issues related to governance, leadership, and equity and inclusion. But she is also a senior advisor on the mental health needs of students of color, and I am just so pleased to recommend her to this committee. Thank you for a wonderful, wonderful presentation and from focusing on the mental health needs of students. I thank the President and the Vice Chairs for this honor. I look forward to this. I'm committed to higher education, but there is a critical time right now in higher education. Throughout this country, we have lost faith in what was the dream maker for many of our people. I thank you for this opportunity. Happy to answer any questions you may have, but please don't sit back and allow people to attack higher education. That's what has done a lot for all of our people and the generations and generations of immigrants and former slaves in this country. Thank you. I'll answer any question you may have. If you don't have any, have a very wonderful evening, and thank you for this honor. And since all of you were talking about age, I celebrated my mother's 100th birthday 2 days ago. Top that now.
I'm on my way. Wonderful.
Senator Carroza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I represent 3 institutions of higher education in my district: University of Maryland Eastern Shore, Salisbury University, and Warwick Community College. I've spent time not only with the presidents of those institutions, but other community members on how we can keep our local talent, our students right here in Maryland. And I just wanted you to maybe address that priority, given your California background.
I actually grew up in the South Bronx, quiet as it's kept, so I have a very interesting history ending up in California, and particularly at Stanford University. But let me just say, this is a critical time for students. It's a pivotal time because these are young people trying to decide how to invest in their future, what their life trajectory is going to be. There is something that nobody is talking about, and that is the sense of belonging and not being entitled to those opportunities. Students, your help in understanding and helping understand the stressors that this is creating for that young population. And when I'm talking about young, I'm talking about 17 to 40 years old, because that's who's in higher education now. Keep in mind that higher education right now has become majority women at almost all levels. 30+% of all the presidents that are being attacked are women. So that represented the future for this country. Don't think about just the scholarship. Think about the stressors that prevent people from being successful. I hope I'm answering your question.
I'm really focused on our Maryland students.
Well, but the Maryland students represent the same issue. I know pretty much all the schools that you've been involved with. I know the leadership there. It's support. It's celebrating. It's making sure that we're doing everything we can. We have good programs in Maryland. You have an incredible system of higher education. But if the students feel that they don't belong because of everything they're reading throughout the country, that's something we need to really address. You have an incredible cluster of historically Black institutions in this state, which is also very important. You have private institutions, you have public institutions. It's a wonderful system with a lot of dedicated leaders. One of the things you have in this state is stability of leadership in higher ed, particularly at the president's level and at the board level through the whole state. That needs to be protected.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to make a speech, but hey, if you care about something, talk.
You did a good job.
Senator McKay.
Thank you. Thank you for stepping up. I represent a district that has Frostburg State University, and we are unfortunately or unfortunately, we had the passing of our president.
Yes.
Very, very sad with Ron, who's a good friend. How do you see the boards of regents helping, say, Frostburg State University with a population that's decreasing, but yet making sure that all programs are still offered and that nothing is diluted for somebody who attends Frostburg State University?
And that's the wave. Understand that state colleges have a critical role, all of them. And that's why I love the Maryland system of higher education, because it's so varied in opportunity for students. Unfortunately, we haven't always invested as much into the state public institution as we have in others. So they don't necessarily have the luxury of large endowments that can help during difficult times. My suggestion is make sure that those trustees who are being appointed to those boards really understand the anxiety of what keeps leadership up at night. The fact that your president passed, it's not that unusual. A lot of people are stepping out. The presidents are leaving the careers behind them because the stress that's being created and the attack in higher education, not in Maryland, is coming from state legislators. You're one of the few states that still continues to demonstrate incredible support for the leaders in this state. Your governor is very much involved. The appointments of trustees has been taken very serious in this state. Stay at it. Don't ignore it, because that's what protects the system that we have. And all it takes is one trustee. All it takes is a situation that becomes a battle for you to lose your presidents. Of all the presidents I've known in this state, their average tenure has been around 7 to 10 years, which is among the longest that you have in terms of presidents. That's what makes your system strong. The fact that you protect, support, and are committed. You're one of the best states in terms of support of higher education. So I admire the system, but state colleges have a very important role because they serve most of the middle class and the poor in the state because they're more affordable.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Seeing no further questions, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
It's getting late, and so in the interest of time, I'm going to go to the Johns Hopkins University Police Accountability Board, and I'm going to call each name, and what I will do is ask you to come forward as I call your name, and then I'll ask my colleagues if you have any questions, and if not, that would be the process for you. So first, Jonathan Aguilar and Sabrina Harris, Isabel John, Samana Kondo, and Natasha Ortiz Fortier, if you would, okay. And Daniel Webster. Okay, I'm going to ask our colleagues, do you have any questions of those?
Excuse me, hi. I think I have to present them, don't I?
No, what we're going to do, because we're going to take them all at one time because of the interest of time, and we have quite a lengthy
All right, well, let me
Senate
just say as a
session.
class, all the ones
Okay.
from the 43rd District, Jonathan Aguilar, Isabel John, those are our two student recommendations, and my neighbor and colleague and friend, Natasha Ortiz. I support them wholeheartedly and recommend them. They are good people, and they will do a good job.
Thank you. Any questions from committee members? Okay, you had the easiest one to go. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Okay. Let me,
You're doing this.
oh, yeah, yes. Where's Raina? Rain? Come down, please.
We're going to go next to nominee number 34 to complete the University System Board of Regents. This is Rain Rivera Forbes, a constituent of District 26, and Senator Muse.
Good. Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee, it gives me great pleasure to present Rain Rivera Forbes. She's a freshman studying law and American civilization at Towson University, where she holds the position of Appropriations Committee Chair for the Student Government Association and serves as a fundraising chair for the Black Student Union. a native of Prince George's County. She graduated from Duval High in 2024, and she's always been passionate about student advocacy and making a positive impact in her community. Her advocacy journey began in her freshman year of high school when she joined the Prince George's Regional Association of Student Governments and testified before the Prince George's County delegation, advocating for voting rights for the student member of the board, and she later became a member of the SMOB Advisory Council. Utilizing her voting rights, she supported significant changes within PGCPS, including the expansion of career and technical education at Crossing High School, and being the first to vote on the operating budget. She's a positive leader. I'm glad to know her, and I'm proud to have her from our district and to present it to you now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good evening, everyone. Hello to Senate President, and hello to the Executive Nominations Chair and to the Vice Chair of Executive Nominations. I hope I can move fast. I don't want to hold too much time up, but I'm just thankful to be here. I'm thankful to be before all of you. I'm just very grateful for this opportunity. I would also like to thank Governor Westmore for this appointment as well. This nominations, it's all I could ask for. I'm very passionate about student leadership. I'm also grateful to my family who's been with me every single step of the way, my grandparents, my mother, my siblings. I'm also grateful to the Towson University community for supporting me, the USM community, and then also my two friends from Towson University who are with me as well, which are Liam Britton and Gabriella Artis. So they're in the back recording me, but they're here to support me as well. Like I said, I'm just super excited. I was student member of the board for my county last school year, so to just be able to do this on another level, especially in college, means so much to me. I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions for this nominee? Seeing none, thank you so much. We appreciate your time this evening. Next, we're going to go to nominee number 9 for the Maryland Higher Education Commission. This is a Constituent District 4, Dr. Kathleen Bands. Senator Folden could not be here this evening, so I will go ahead and introduce Dr. Bands to the committee. Dr. Bands is a professor emerita of Hood College in Frederick and has extensive experience serving at various levels at Hood College, including as Dean of the Graduate School there at Hood College. Previously, she was on faculty at the University of South Carolina, James Madison University, Meredith College. Her education experience began in University of North Carolina, where she had received a master's in education, also as a PhD in curriculum and instruction from University of Maryland College Park, has extensive lectures and conferences and papers, as well as many grant-funded projects, and has also taught many courses. With that, Dr. Bands, you may proceed.
Thank you, and thank you for that introduction. President Ferguson, Chair Lamb, Vice Chair Muse, members of the committee. I am here today to participate in the process, and I'm very grateful for the support of the governor to serve on the Maryland Higher Education Commission, and I look forward to answering any questions that you may have.
Senator Croza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Bands, thank you. Thank you for your service at Hood College.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask you the same question I asked the other nominee. Given an effort here to keep our Maryland talent, our students here in Maryland, with your position being nominated for the Maryland Higher Education Commission, do you have any views on how we could enhance that effort?
Thank you, and that's a great question. Maryland is so lucky to have such a wealth of private and public institutions of higher education. And one of the things that I was excited to see on the Maryland Higher Education is the work our community colleges are doing to showcase the scholarships and financial aid available. And I do think that's an important aspect of it, to look at not only the affordability, but the avenue to share that with parents. Financing higher education is a challenge, and yet it is affordable if, in fact, we continue to educate people that investing in your future through education is relevant. So I was excited to see, that outreach that's being done to support that. And
Mr. Chair, one follow-up, if I could. I was interested because of your experience at Hood. If you saw, if we needed to continue to improve those students who want to transfer, since you mentioned community colleges, some of them will then opt to, go on to hopefully stay in Maryland and go to a 4-year. The issues, I didn't know what you experienced at Hood with community college students transferring in, and if we should be improving that process.
One of the things I think Maryland does incredibly well is matriculation agreements between the community colleges and the 4-year institutions. So I had the privilege of serving as Vice President of Enrollment Management at Hood, and one of the things that we valued was that interface, working with the community colleges and making sure that students are taking relevant courses that transfer, that encourage them to complete their degree in a timely manner. There are always opportunities for improvement, but I think that's something Maryland is very aware of and
that's good
works
to hear.
diligently to make sure that students in that pipeline for 4-year institutions really begin that advising process while they're in the community colleges.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Dr. Bands? Seeing none, thank you so much. We appreciate your time this evening. We're going to go next to Ms. Sarah Otway. Also for the Maryland Higher Education Commission. This is a constituent of Senator Quarterman from District 2. He could not be here this evening, but he has provided a letter, which I'll read in brief. Please introduce Ms. Sarah Otway to the Executive Nominations Committee. As a current student of the University of Maryland College Park, she has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to public service, civic engagement, and the advancement of educational equity. Her leadership, policy acumen, and passion for student advocacy make her an exceptional candidate for a role on this commission. Her academic pursuits in public health practice and government politics, complemented by her participation in the Gemstone Honors Research Program and the Global Fellows Program in Washington, reflect her interdisciplinary approach to addressing complex educational and societal challenges. Her coursework in research and ethics policy and social sciences provide her with a strong foundation for contributing to the Commission's mission of fostering accessible, high quality education in Maryland. And in closing, beyond academics, Ms. Otway has demonstrated initiative in various capacities as the founder and president of the Multicultural Student Alliance in Hagerstown. She's successfully organized cultural events, secured funding for diversity initiatives, and led efforts to promote inclusion. Her ability to mobilize students and execute large-scale projects, such as the 80-plus student trip to the African American Museum in Washington, highlights her strategic thinking and organizational skills. And this is from Senator Quarterman. With that, you may proceed.
All right, although he's not here, I would like to extend my thanks to Senator Quarterman for that lovely introduction. I'd also like to extend my thanks to the members of this committee, Executive Chair Lamb, Vice Chair Muse, and as well as Senator President Ferguson. I just want to extend my thanks. I also want to extend my thanks to Wes Moore, Governor Wes Moore, for considering me for this position. And I'd also like to extend my thanks to my lovely parents, although they're not here today. They've been with me through every step of the way, and especially in regards to this appointment to this board, especially behind the means of my higher education process. With that being said, I have no further words. Any questions?
Any questions of this nominee? Senator McKay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Quarterman sends his regrets. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for reading that letter. My job is finished because both of those things have been accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much.
Next, we'll do number 31, Social Work, State Board of Social Work Examiners, Stephen Michael Leggett Creel. Thank you. Senator Lamb.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Good evening, members of the committee. Please introduce Mr. Stephen Michael Liggett-Creel for the nomination of the State Board of Social Work Examiners. He is a licensed certified social worker, clinical, LCSWC, with a master's in social work from the University of Maryland in Baltimore, with extensive experience working with vulnerable youth and families. He has spent many years working with youth and families in the child welfare system, including as the director and vice president of therapeutic programs at Hearts and Homes for Youth. Since leaving the private sector, he has served as the director of the Department of Social Services in Howard County and Prince George's County, as the chief of staff at the Prince George's County DSS, and also as a senior advisor to the Secretary of the Department of Human Services. His extensive knowledge in social work profession make him well prepared for the important oversight role provided by the Board of Examiners. With that, please introduce Mr. Liggett-Creel.
Good evening. Thank you to Senator Lamb for introducing me. Thank you, Senate President Ferguson, Vice Chair Muse. I want to thank Governor Moore for nominating me. I want to thank Department of Human Services and also the Maryland Association of Social Services Director for trusting me with this nomination. So with that, I'll answer any questions you all may have.
Any questions from the committee? Okay, Senator Augustine and then Senator Hayes.
No, thank you so very much. I just want to say thank you to you for, the work that you've done in our community. I'm grateful. And I'm sure you'll do an outstanding job on this board, and I just second the nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Senator Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to add, in addition to his various accomplishments in social work, Senate President, he's married up. He's married to the Dr. K, as we know her, back in Baltimore with the University of Maryland, who's done an exceptional job. But thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for stepping up to serve.
Thank you, thank you. She's definitely my better half.
Right. Any other questions? Yes.
Thank you, and thanks. It was great to hear about your credentials. And just very briefly, do you have any ideas about how we can address the social workers that are leaving the profession, whether it's incentives? I know I actually had a family member who was a social worker and she left the profession, and I just, thought you might have some ideas on incentives to keep them.
Yeah, I think there's lots of different opportunities to help incentivize social workers to stay. I think, there are certain roles that social workers play that pay a salary that's satisfactory, but there's many, many roles that do not. So I definitely think that looking at them and the value add they bring to a community and the work they do around supporting families, both in the public sector but also in the private sectors, is important. It's a tough work. It's a tough job. And so, one of the roles that I've played in my professional is bringing that vicarious trauma and focus on you can't take care of someone else unless you're taking care of yourself. And so as an employer, how are we bringing that in? And so for even our public social workers, how are we bringing in those supports for our social workers to when they've had the bad day or they've made a decision that maybe didn't go the way they wanted, that there's a process to which we can support them, encourage them, and then train them up if you need to as they're doing this hard work. Unfortunately, a lot of the decisions are made. You go back and hindsight's 20/20. And so, in the future, it looks like maybe that wasn't the best action. But how do we learn from those and then continue to improve?
And maybe in
skills?
addition to that, maybe some recognition that, they just don't seem to be recognized at the same level as, say, teachers and other professions. So I was interested in that if you end up doing any follow-up on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I would support that comment as well.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, thank you so very much for coming down.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to nominee number 36. This is for the Washington Suburban Transit Commission, Deborah Lockhart-Jarvis, constituent District 16, and Senator Love. Senator Love could not be here this evening, but she did send a letter, which I'll read in part. Pleased to offer my strong support for the nomination of Debbie Lockhart-Jarvis for a 4-year term beginning in July. Her extensive background in corporate communications, public affairs, and community engagement make her an exceptionally qualified for this role. Throughout her career, she's held executive leadership positions at Atla Gas, Washington Gas, Howard University, and Pepco Holdings, where she led strategic initiatives in public-private partnerships, crisis communication, and stakeholder engagement. Her expertise in navigating complex regulatory and transportation-related issues, combined with her commitment to sustainability and equity, will be invaluable to the Commission. In addition to her professional experience, Debbie is deeply committed to public service, serving on the boards of Hope College, Goodwill of Greater Washington, the Girl Scouts of the nation's capital, and the DC Public Education Fund. Her leadership in fostering collaboration and advancing community-driven solutions will greatly benefit the Commission's work in improving regional transportation policies and infrastructure. And this is from Senator Love. With that, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. And last but almost, not least, I guess, almost last but not least. First, I would like to thank Senator Love. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to be here, but I also thank Senate President Bill Ferguson for reading the wonderful words from Senator Love. Thank you to Nominating Chair Clarence Lamb and Executive Vice Chair Anthony Muse. Please tell Pat Lawson-Muse I said hello as well. I am absolutely grateful to Governor Westmore for this appointment, and I would like to add one just brief correction. It's actually Deborah. It's spelled D-A-B-O-R-A-H. It's deceiving because my nickname is Debbie, and I'm better known as Debbie Jarvis. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions, should you have any.
Senator Smith.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very quick. I just want to say hi, Debbie. Good to see you. We're lucky to have someone of this, of your caliber and grace in this position. So happy to support your nomination. It's good to see you. With that.
And Vice Chair.
And my friend, I will tell Pat, you said that you've been our friend for many, many, many years, and I'm thankful and I support your nomination highly. Good to see you.
Seeing no further questions, thank you so much. We appreciate your time this evening.
That's right. The best class.
Thank you. All right, thank you, committee, for your patience. We're going to go ahead and into voting, and we'll entertain a motion for voting. Senator Reedy.
Is it on this, it's going to be on this packet, correct?
This packet, and we'll bring someone else forward after that.
Okay, I'd like to ask to remove number 21 for a separate vote.
Okay, do we have a second for that?
Removal's automatic.
Oh, okay.
No, separate.
So we'll
Separate, I guess that's the right word, separate.
Nominee 21 for separate vote. Any other separations?
We need to take out Hopkins.
Oh, yes. Can you take out Hopkins?
And we're going to take out 12 through 17. And there's one other.
That's 38 through 40.
And 38 to 41. We'll take them out for now, okay? Right.
That's 38 through.
S38, I'm sorry. That's S38 through S41. All right.
Do we have a motion on the remaining folks?
Okay, I move favor.
Second.
All right. Yes.
Yes.
38 to 41 were separated out, along with 12 through 17. So this is a vote on all of those, except those that were separated out. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Senator Sidnor, you have a question. Go ahead.
I just wanted to make certain that you meant S38, not S39.
38 through 41.
Are they different lists?
I think you got the wrong list, my friend.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so we have a affirmative vote on the previous not listed nominees. We have a request to separate out number 21, nominee 21. We're going to take a vote now on number 21. So we have a motion to move favorable and a second. All those who vote in favor of nominee 21, please raise your hands. All those opposed? We have Senator James, Senator Hershey, is that right? And Senator McKay, Senator Reedy. Anyone abstain? Okay.
On S40, there are a lot of letters of opposition that were in our packet today. I don't know this person, but I was very concerned about the letters of opposition. I want to hold 40, please.
Was there a 38 through S41 did not have to appear to begin with?
They're reappointed.
Doesn't say reappointments.
Well, it doesn't, but they have appeared within the last 4 years.
Okay. So they were appointed, I'm sorry.
Previously, they are reappointments.
Okay. It just.
They've appeared before the committee before.
They have, then that's
Yes.
fine. Thank you.
We have one more. Last time we held Mr. John Philip Morgan for the Commissioner of Corrections, so move forward with his nomination. So properly motioned and seconded. All those in favor of moving forward with Mr. John Philip Morgan?
One question here.
You have a question? Aye. Any opposed? All right, seeing none, that's unanimous. Any other question? Yes.
Just for scheduling, like next Monday, how long do you envision the list going to be? Is it going to be like this, or it's like this? Okay, thank you.
Next three meetings.
All right, seeing no further motions, motion to adjourn? All right, thank you.